I think when we first started this podcast, you had mentioned we're going to do all spy movies, and then you randomly found out that there was a Spy Flintstones, and this has been on our list for a long time.
Yeah, when we started doing our homework and just realized just how massive the spy explosion of content in the 60s was, that really everyone was trying to get in on some of that audience movie. And I think just the fact that even the Flintstones jumped in on that bandwagon was pretty amazing. I'll just go ahead and say right now, I don't, it'll be a while. It'll be at least a year or maybe never that we dip this low. Um, but I don't know. Flintstones kind of fun to talk about. We have talked about it a lot on this podcast before. The what I call the Cambrian explosion of the 60s spy genre.
Mhm.
It's worth mentioning again. Like, it starts with James Bond, with Dr. No in 1960, and then by this time, by 1966, there are, oh my god, so many spy television series. Let's see, what do we got? The what's the one with the Mel Brooks one, the show?
Oh, Get Smart.
Yeah, Get Smart, The Man from Uncle, I Spy is out there. The Avengers, which didn't really start out as a spy television series, has kind of morphed into one,
Mhm.
and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, this is a 1966 film, The Man Called Flintstone. It was made and released immediately after the end of the TV series, which ran from 1960 to 1966. The featured agencies are obviously completely fabricated and mostly unnamed.
Uh-huh.
Although the Flintstones is a fantastical reimagining of 1960s American middle class life, so it would be assumed that our side is some kind of analog of the CIA.
Oh,
Um,
well, especially since Tanya's Russian, but the Green Goose was just kind of a guy with a lisp.
did he
That
have a
was
lisp?
weird.
I didn't catch the lisp.
Yeah, he had like a snake talk, and then yeah, but Tanya is definitely supposed to be Russian, so I'm
She's
not
got a
exactly.
Russian accent. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm not sure who. I don't. I think like the Green Goose is supposed to be like a James Bond private organization that's trying to destroy the world because I don't think he
totally.
represents a country. Yeah, yeah.
Right. He is, let's see. So his organization, it's only mentioned once. It's just a very minor gag, is called Smirk.
That sounds kind of familiar to Man from Uncle, right? I forgot the name of the group. What was it?
No, they had a really, or wait, Man from Uncle? Uncle.
Oh, it was
I
Uncle. Never mind. It was Uncle.
right. But they had
Yeah.
a zany acronym kind of thing for their secret organization. Our man Flint had a really funny one, which I don't remember right now. This would mostly be probably a direct reference to SMERSH, SMERSH, which is the Russian counterintelligence agency that James Bond goes up against in the novels.
Oh.
Not
Oh, so it
necessarily
wasn't
in
Spectre in the novels. Okay.
exactly. The movie producers didn't want the James Bond movies to be political. So
Mm, I
they
see.
said, can you come up with a fictional agency for James Bond to go up against? And then that went over so well that Spectre eventually made their way into the books.
Okay. Well, that's kind
Um,
of cool. I always like when that happens, when something adapted goes canon, kind of like a Harley Quinn, and then it makes its way into canon because it's so popular.
It's just me, B-Man. No Joker, no gas bombs, no city in peril. Just you, that tank, and me.
Why?
but yeah, one of our civilians, as you say, speaks with a Russian accent, and there's an Allied agent that speaks and appears as a British agent. So, good guys are Americans, bad spies are Russians, Allied spies
Hmm.
are British.
Yeah.
And that's just something that is like so soaked into the zeitgeist of spy caricatures. All the way to today. I'll bet there are kids out there that can watch a cartoon, and as soon as they hear a Russian accent, they know that's a bad guy, and they have no
Right.
idea why.
Yeah.
They don't know why that's so in their head.
Right.
We've got a couple enemy agents that seem like maybe slightly coded as Muslim due to the fezzes, but I don't think it's over the top.
What was really weird in the closed caption, he kind of mutters in like another language sometimes, but the closed caption said speaks indistinctly Japanese. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird because they're both kind of dressed like from the Middle East or like at least Arabia. Like, you watch those old films
Oh,
and there's like,
his name is Ali.
yeah, and his name is Ali, but somehow he's speaking indistinct Japanese. So I don't know if that was an error on the closed captions or not, but yeah, you're right. They kind of have like a more Muslim feel to them, or Middle East Arabian assassin squad or something.
Everyone wants to be a spy now. Every movie company, every television company wants to have a spy property. As far as the first spy comedy, I think I personally give the crown to the Get Smart TV show, which was created in part by Mel Brooks. Did you know that Mel Brooks is an EGOT?
I don't know what an EGOT is.
That's someone that's won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Oh wow, I'm not surprised.
You haven't heard of this?
No, but I'm
There's
not
only
surprised. Yeah.
there's only like 12 of them.
Right.
It's really rarefied air. But it's the Get Smart that is what got him the Emmy. Mm-hmm. All three of the other awards came from different versions of the producers.
Okay.
Because it was a Broadway show, and then it was a movie, and then the soundtrack was like really popular and got a Grammy. But yeah, so Get Smart, I think, is the first spy comedy, but that is just, and I was mistaken. Dr. No doesn't come out until 1962. Mm-hmm. So by 65, we're already doing comedies, and by 66, this is just like 3-4 years into the genre, we're already getting like a kind of a massive popular, let's say mainstream animated show like the Flintstones, jumping in on that action. This is also the same year as Our Man Flint, which I would call the first direct parody of Bond. Mm-hmm. Our Man Flint came out in January of this year, and The Man Called Flintstone, see what they did there, comes out in August with a movie poster that is a direct ripoff of the Our Man Flint movie poster. They were really making a strong direct connection here. And then, so this is right around when like spy comedies started coming out. There's another one that comes out, which will be interesting to cover someday. This is also the year of What's Up, Tiger Lily? Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about that one?
Yeah, the Woody Allen film. I saw that when I was younger. I don't really.
Oh, really? Do you remember it enough to say like what kind of movie it is? It's a really specific kind of weirdness.
Not really. I think my mom was watching it, and I probably wasn't paying attention. I was pretty young.
Okay. Well, what it is it's there's a okay, again, not to I'm totally beating this dead horse, but everyone's doing spy stuff, even internationally. So the Japanese have this spy series, which it's actually kind of known by a lot of names, but the movie that I'm talking about is called Key of Keys. Mm-hmm. And the Japanese name, I put in the notes. I don't know if you're looking at those.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if you could try to pronounce that. That's the
Kokusai Himitsu Keisatsu Kagi no Kagi. Yeah. Kagi no Kagi is key of, keys is, but I guess you could translate it as Key of Keys. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that movie is like it's Woody Allen taking a Japanese spy movie and remixing it, changing the order and changing the dubbing to make it into a comedy.
Is Key of Keys or What's Up, Tiger Lily?
What's Up, Tiger Lily is a remix of Key of Keys.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And that's a Japanese spy film?
That's correct. And it was, I think, I don't know if it was the first. It's a series, you know. It's in the same vein as James Bond. Like they're making one after the other. They're putting out like one every year for like 8 or 10 years or some shit like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be happy to check that out.
So that's kind of the historical context of when this movie comes out. Flintstones, of course, famous for being the first primetime animated show of all time. It was based on the Honeymooners. Directly enough. Like the Fred character is definitely enough close to the Jackie Gleason character Ralph Cramden that Jackie was considering a lawsuit, which his lawyers assured him he would totally win, but a friend warned him off of it, saying you don't want to be the guy that like took down America's favorite like family comedy. I would say that the influence of the Flintstones on The Simpsons and Family Guy is very profound.
Oh, absolutely. I think Seth MacFarlane wanted to do a new Flintstones.
I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, but I think they denied it because of all of his other stuff that's gone on. I guess I don't know. Maybe they felt he wouldn't take care of it, but he grew up a huge Flintstones fan.
Yeah, I think that's clear from a lot of his work. I want that. I would watch that.
Yeah,
I would definitely check that out. So even though like I'm the older of the two of us, but even for me, Flintstones was definitely like even as a kid, I could tell this was like older stuff. You know, I'm not even alive when this show was running. I remember I didn't like it as a kid. Even, you know, when I was in that phase, you remember that phase when you would just watch anything cartoon?
yeah.
I don't know how it was for you, but there was a time when like cartoons would run in the afternoon and then sometime around 3:00, like they would stop and you were just so bummed out as a
Yeah,
kid.
right.
Now
Saturday morning cartoons all day, eating cereal. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Now you can just get anything you want anytime.
Right.
Kind of crazy. So and in general, like I really did not like Hanna Barbera cartoons. Even as a kid, I really kind of thought they were sort of trash.
Oh, really? You didn't like? Yeah. I mean, like, I liked the Flintstones when I was a kid, and I feel you. I could tell it was an older production. But you didn't like Yogi or like Huckleberry Hound or anything, or the Great American Race or whatever it's called.
The wacky races kind of thing, I thought that was okay.
Right.
That was something my sister and I could agree on because I don't know what your relationship with cartoons and your sibling were, but you know, you've got a sister as well. And so definitely on Saturday morning, it was constant negotiation of what we're going to watch next. You know, one for you, one
Right.
for me,
Right.
one
Yeah.
for you. And wacky races at least was something we could both kind of agree on.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't think we fought too much about what to watch. And then there was a time where the second TV came and it was like, oh, but yeah, the Wacky Races. And then I like Droopy. I always thought he was funny.
That's not Hanna-Barbera though.
What? Really?
I think they picked him up at some point, but the original Droopy cartoons are kind of like a auteur kind of thing, I think.
Oh, really?
I think that's Tex Avery, actually.
Oh, it is Tex Avery. Yeah, by MGM. So, but that must be original because I remember hearing Roger Rabbit. Droopy is the only Hanna-Barbera cartoon because they didn't want to be a part of the Disney Warner Brothers mix. Well, that changes that.
So it did make me think and go through and man, like, I mean, the amount of shows that Hanna-Barbera pumped out is like truly ridiculous. So I was like, well, are there any cartoons I did like? You mentioned Wacky Races. I just had that listed as something that at least my sister and I could agree on.
Right.
Also in that category is the Smurfs, which I did not realize was Hanna-Barbera.
Oh yeah,
To
the
me,
Smurfs were great.
I thought it was a great show. Yeah.
Wait, that means the Snorks would be Hanna Barbera too, right? That's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't have HBO when I was a kid, so I just saw the Snorks at somebody else's house like once, and I was like, "Oh my god, I want this."
Right.
But yeah, there was some sci-fi stuff that I could get into. The Herculoids. Did you ever see that one?
No.
I only kind of vaguely remember it's a weird show with like some, I don't know, a family that like runs around with some weird aliens. The concept of Space Ghost was cool to me, but the show sucked. And
Not the talk show. You're talking about like the original Space Ghost, right?
the original Space Ghost is pretty garbage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Coast to Coast though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I vaguely remember this show, the Herculoids. I like vaguely remember this. Damn, I
it
forgot
was
the
it
show
was
existed.
definitely weird enough to keep my interest.
Right.
And then Thundar the Barbarian, I would watch just because I wanted it to be good so bad. Like the intro with the cracked moon in the background. You know, it was like a post-apocalypse space barbarian concept or something. But again, the show itself was just no good.
This is terrible.
Yeah. But then of course there's like, I don't know, the second coming of Hanna-Barbera with the Cartoon Network. They did a bunch
Oh
of good
yeah.
stuff there.
Oh, were they behind the Cartoon Network?
I think they were, they were okay, so especially back then, like what you did is you launched a cable network basically by starting out just recycling a bunch of trash that nobody else wanted. You know, like so Sci-Fi Network just started by just pumping out, like you could just see a bunch of old science fiction movies. And I think there was like a horror network where they would just start out by just showing a bunch of old horror movies. And in this case, they started out just by throwing out a bunch of old cartoons. And then as soon as you start making a little bit of money, you can start investing in original stuff. And then, or Comedy Central, right? Comedy Central definitely started out with very little original content.
Yeah, it was all just random stand-ups, a couple old shows and movies.
Right. But Hanna-Barbera definitely the force behind Cartoon Network's lineup of original stuff. I ride hard for Dexter's
Wow.
Laboratory.
Yeah, Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls.
Uh-huh.
I think the creator of Dexter's Lab is married to Laura Fost, who's the creator of Powerpuff Girls, also My Little Pony. So that couple is like a power animation couple.
Right.
Yeah, like they've worked on each other's stuff, and I think they were like some of the original creators and animators for Cartoon Network. So I mean, I didn't realize all those shows were Hanna Barbera. I remember Hanna Barbera. I remember Cartoon Network playing old Hanna Barbera cartoons, but I didn't realize the cartoon originals that pretty much like put Cartoon Network on the map were Hanna Barbera Productions.
Definitely so. And then of course there's all the revisionist stuff. The the stuff where they like remixed basically like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Birdman as a lawyer,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, Harvey
thing.
Birdman, attorney at law. Yeah, all that Adult Swim stuff. All that, yeah, Adult Swim stuff was perfect.
Yeah, that stuff is crazy good. And then you start getting other, they start having these successes, and other people start seeing that they could get some real creative freedom by bringing their weird cartoon shows to especially Adult Swim, and then you start getting stuff like Aqua
Teen Hunger Force, yeah,
right.
and Robot Chicken, and yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my relationship with the Flintstones and the Hanna Barbera thing. Quick question: did you ever see the movie with John and the little guy, John Goodman, the Flintstones movie?
Oh, and Rick
There were
Moranis? Yes,
yeah,
I
there were
did.
two of them.
And Rosie O'Donnell was Betty.
Any good?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what is good is working on the notes for this project, and I think we're about getting ready for the briefing room. But the Flintstones comic books from DC Comics, I think they came out around like 2010, and I had heard really good things, but I guess I not enough to make me a believer
Mhm.
or to run out and check them out. But reading about the Flintstones here, it kind of reminded me like, oh yeah, there was that comic book. And I know I've showed you a few panels and talked to you a little about it. It is really, really funny, really intelligent stuff. It's just a 12 issue limited series. I'm on 6 right now, and I'm reading them like, that is there a name? Probably some language has a name for this feeling when you're reading something very slowly because you know that there's a limited quantity of it.
Oh, you're trying to like savor every moment. Yeah, yeah.
I really am. It's kind of like the Simpsons level of humor, but kind of more infused with existential dread, which is just fantastic, and I can't recommend the comics highly enough. That's everything I got.
It's just amazing like how far animation's come. But doing this show, I think you had randomly found this and you were talking about like, oh yeah, because of the spy explosion during the 60s, they even made a Flintstone show. And I remember like back in the day, all of the animated specials like for holidays, or like those like one-off kind of side special cartoons, and this kind of felt like that it was like, hey, there's something going on, let's put out a spy film for Flintstone. So this kind of reminded me of that. And you know what else was weird was the Christmas Flintstones episode. Like, what the hell are they celebrating? Because even back then, that would have been pre-pagan.
Yeah,
So, so you can't really claim like, okay, this is the Yule tree or they're celebrating like keeping away Krampus or something. This has been way before that. So, but that's what this movie kind of reminded me of. Like anytime there's a holiday, you get those like cartoon specials for the kids, and this felt like, oh, there's a spy explosion. We should make a spy Flintstones movie, and this is kind of how it felt. But it also kind of felt rushed. That they just kind of had to put it out really fast. But I think
this movie or the Christmas movie?
This movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they rushed because I mean like we'll talk about the movie a little bit more, but it just felt super rushed that they were like, we have to get this out, so they just put up whatever they could get as soon as possible just so they could get this movie out. It's kind of how I felt because it was pretty bad.
It's not good. It's not good. Might be the worst movie that we reviewed, and it might have some of the least amount of actual tradecraft.
Yeah.
Let's tear into that.
Retinal scan complete. Validating security clearance. Clearance granted. You may now enter the briefing room.
It's really common in a lot of spy movies, especially like satellite, like kind of non-serious spy movies or spy parodies, where it's not like we don't get stories about it's not like our side is doing an operation and that's what the story is about. Mm-hmm. That's something I generally think is reserved for some of the better spy movies that we talk about. Mm-hmm. It's typical that it's just like reactionary on our part. Mm-hmm. There's a bad guy doing some bad stuff and we got to send James Bond in to say what's up. Mm-hmm. Or find out what's up and put an end to an evil plot. Mm-hmm. So for sure, in that case, like I want to start, even though we don't meet the Green Goose, who's the villain of the story, until like kind of near, at least halfway through, maybe like 2/3 of the way through. I think to understand the tradecraft or the spy plot of this movie, you got to start with him because he's the activator, right? And then the heroes are just reacting to him. Again, like they make the joke, he runs the Smirk organization. Smirk doesn't actually make any appearance in the film except that reference. He's just got a couple of heavies. That's the Ali and Bobo characters and the Tanya character that we mentioned before. And he's also got a saber-toothed tiger, which he is stroking.
Like a Bond villain would.
Yeah. It's totally a nod to Blofeld's white Persian. He's got a rocket, and I don't think they ever explained what it does.
No. It just seemed to be a doomsday device. According to the chief, Pebble's future is on the line, so I'm guessing this is kind of like a doomsday rocket, but, I mean, they don't really tell you anything.
Right. He has a line where he says, like, something about the whole world will know my power and I will reign supreme. Ha 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 ha. But nowhere do they feel like it's necessary to tell us like how this is going to advance his cause in any way. I mean, is he just going to nuke the world and then say, I win?
Yeah. I'm not sure what that was. Yeah. They didn't really go through the plan very well. And if it is a doomsday rocket, I don't know how the world is just going to be like, yeah, we'll do, you're going to reign because you blew up a place. If it's really that big of a deal where it's going to wipe like all of human population, how is he going to rule? Yeah, whatever. Moving on.
Okay. Well, the only thing that could ruin his plan, whatever it is if the government has finished work on their anti-rocket technology, which they haven't, but he knows they're working on it. So his win condition, yeah.
I really wanted that to be misinformation. I mean, I know we'll talk a little bit about later, but I really, really wanted that to be misinformation. And it turned out not to be. And I think you and I are going to have a lot to talk about as far as how this movie could have gone better. But the fact that he like screams it out loud, that he has this message about anti-missile technology, that it's not going to work, like tells me, and I think I made this my number 2 worst tradecraft. I wanted that to be disinformation when it happened. I was like, oh, maybe at the end he'll shoot the rocket and it'll turn out the government was lying and they just planted this disinformation knowing they were being watched. But that wasn't the case. But so it made my number 2 worst tradecraft because you don't go running around screaming, country like secrets like that, like, hey, we don't have the anti-missile technology. In case anybody's listening, I'm just going to say this as loud as possible. So, yeah, number 2 worst tradecraft.
At the beginning of the film, we're going to see the heavies. So I'm trying to keep his objective in mind, right? Like, all he needs to know is find out if this anti-missile thing is finished or not. The beginning of the film is going to show his 2 heavies, Ollie and Bobo, chasing Agent Rock Slag, who looks exactly like Fred Flintstone. In fact, we don't find out that it's not Fred Flintstone until at the end of the chase when we hear him talking. And at first, I still thought it was Fred, and I was like, "This is weird. Why does he sound like that?"
Right.
It's only later after that scene when we get to meet the real Fred, who's speaking in Fred's real voice, that I realized like what had happened there. And the heavies are chasing Slag apparently with the goal of eliminating him. And that seems to be their objective throughout the film. But when the goose gets his hands on Fred, who he thinks is Rock Slag, he doesn't try to kill him. He tries to get the information he needs from him. So I think that will come up later as being like something of cross purpose. Like when we analyze tradecraft on this show, we're always trying to see do the operations that you execute actually match your true objective? Because in shitty spy movies, sometimes they don't. There's a total mismatch.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think about that. Why is Ali and Bobo trying to assassinate Slag if Green Goose is trying to get information out of him?
An interesting thing about the Green Goose is that he is going to be revealed to be a master of disguise to a cartoonishly ludicrous degree. It's almost more like he's like a shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm.
He even turns into a bird and flies away at one point. It seems like.
Yeah, I think he started out as a dog, and then another time he was like a very heavy-set waiter.
Well, this ability has allowed him to infiltrate the government agency in the person of Agent XXX, who we meet about halfway through the movie, right?
By the way, I love that when it was the big reveal was that XXX was the Green Goose. I was like almost face palmed because the fact that his name was XXX at the beginning is like kind of like a clue, like he's a triple agent, you know. and this is probably the Green Goose, and I was like, oh, I see what they did there. But yeah, he has like a godlike ability to change costumes. And infiltrating the government is a huge deal. But I think you and I both marked this as our number one worst tradecraft, but I also marked this as my best. So do you want to chat about why it's the worst?
The reason it's the worst is because he seems to have the total trust of Chief Boulder. That's the head of intelligence. The chief even calls him Trip, so he's got a nickname. Like they've got a bond, you know.
They're buddies, right?
They're homies.
Yeah.
So it really feels like he must have been in place for years, and surely there's tons of ways he could have just used his alternate identity of XXX to go after the information that he needs. So that's why it's my minus spy points and my worst number one tradecraft.
That's precisely why I made it my number one worst tradecraft. Exactly. Like I wanted to point out that it's my best number one because being the villain infiltrating like world level intelligence agencies is a huge thing, but he did exactly zero with it. Right. At no point in the film did his position as XXX working with Chief and Rock Slag and like literally everyone in the world ever be used to gain information. In fact, he didn't even need to try and kidnap Rock Slag. He just could have hung out around Chief as XXX, you know, or turned into a plant while Chief was reading the message. You know, he's this like godlike ability to change like ego or identities, and has basically built a relationship with the chief of intelligence of whatever organization they're working for, and never did anything with it. So that's why I made my number one best tradecraft and also made my number one worst tradecraft.
Yeah, even with my low expectations of the film, I found myself very disappointed that this particular element wasn't explored or leveraged in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, right.
Which I just call missed opportunity points.
Yeah.
In fact, like he even like reveals himself, to runs into Fred as XXX later in the film, and just on the flimsiest of evidence that Fred might suspect that he's actually the Green Goose, he's just like, aha, I really am, haha.
Yeah. Yeah, he just finds a mask that looks like the Green Goose's mask, and XXX is there. So it was, yeah, I don't know. I didn't understand. That was annoying.
We're having fun with it. We're taking a stupid excuse for a spy movie, to be honest, and putting it on our regular table and running our regular tests on it, and that's hopefully enjoyable to the audience. Again, I promise we won't subject you guys to crap like this very often, at least not until next Christmas at the very least. If we can find something worse than this, though, I think it's our responsibility as
To try
spy
and
movie journalists to talk about it. So now over on to Team Good Guy.
Right.
Now, Rock Slag is, the agent that looks like Fred, and presumably he's been on the case to find the green goose. That's not made clear to us, but presumably, and then also that's presumably why the heavies working for Green Goose are trying to eliminate him. Meanwhile, the Chief Boulder has made contact with Tanya, who says that she will ID the Green Goose to... Well, I guess it does become clear. Like, she'll only talk to Rock Slag.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they did actually button that up. Like, that's because supposedly, like, Rock Slag has got this ultra sexiness that women just can't resist.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. I mean, because this is a parody of like the spy films, like kind of a Bond thing. The women like just chasing him and attacking him and kissing him made it kind of. I was happy that they made fun of like just how creepy like Bond is, but it did get kind of a little overdone, especially with the Italian
goofy
lady and the brother. Yeah, the Italian brother and the brother of the Italian woman is like sent as a heavy to try and like force Fred into marrying her. And she calls him Federico. And I was like, okay, this is a little over the top. But yeah.
Well, what happened there exactly? Are we meant to think that Rock had a romantic relationship with the Italian lady?
Yeah, I think he had romantic relationships with all those women. And just no matter where he went, they all recognized him and like, I knew you were in town. And like there was like about 4 or 5 of them that he thought might have been Tanya, the contact, but they turned out to just be women that are in love with Rock Slag. So I think he's just had random relationships with all these women, which yeah, it just adds more to the ridiculousness of Bond and how like creepy he is. You know what I mean?
Right. So Tanya is actually working for the Green Goose. She's
Correct.
got no intention of selling out her boss. She's playing a game here.
Yeah, and that made my number 2 best tradecraft was the Green Goose using Tanya to lure Fred, or quote unquote Rock Slag. When the chief announces to Fred, "This is your mission. You're going to meet this lady Tanya, who obviously looks like a villain, and she's going to help you get the Green Goose." I was like, please tell me that this is the Green Goose's plan to lure Fred in, and it turned out to be. So that made me happy. So that made my number 2 best tradecraft.
Right. But then I counter with my worst number 2 tradecraft is the fact that, as the audience, we're not supposed to know this until later. But in fact, the goons that are trying to kill Slag are working for the same guy who sent Tanya to try to meet Slag and lure him into a trap. So they're totally working at cross purposes. Minus spy points. My number 2 worst.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. And I remember I remember you talking about that. And it was like, yeah, that doesn't work. If you're going to try and kill him, but the Green Goose wants information, what is it that you're doing? I mean, Ali and Bobo did kind of come off as like incompetent assassins. Even though it seemed like they were supposed to be like veteran assassins, but it seemed like they were pretty incompetent. So I'm not sure that was an actual order from Green Goose, but yeah, you're right. They weren't working together as villains to be villain people.
So in a movie where the Flintstones weren't involved, that's how it would have gone down. Tanya would have lured Slag into a trap. I guess the Green Goose would have tried to get the information from Slag, which Slag didn't even have, by the way.
Right.
Also, like, back up to, when we were talking about, like, the Green Goose not using his XXX identity to just get the information from the chief. Well, it is true the chief didn't actually have the information that the Green Goose needed until pretty later in this film.
Yeah, that's right. That's true, yeah.
And also, even though he seems to be able to, just disguise himself as anyone or anybody. There's never a point where he was like shown to have the ability to mimic a precise person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it wouldn't have been just as easy as him showing up looking like rock slag and asking the chief, like, so, hey, what's up with that anti-missile missile?
Yeah.
But what happens here, because they want to set this movie up and basically, do a, whatchamacallit, mistaken identity kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Slag was injured in the opening scene, and in the first kind of sequence where we get to introduce Fred Flintstone into the story, he also gets injured. And they both end up at the same hospital because, of course, there's only one hospital in Bedrock.
Right.
And they look exactly like each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so the Fred's only got like a bump on the head. He's gonna be fine. Slag is in traction. Or actually, Slag was gonna recover too, and then Ollie and Bobo pushed him out another window.
Yeah.
And now he's even worse. So the chief because I guess we'll take it as granted what he says, like, lives are on the line, and this might be our only chance to get the green goose. There's the idea of sending a lookalike in Slag's place, which is on its face like just profoundly stupid. But I kind of, when I was thinking about, when I was refining my notes, the idea of sending a lookalike is not entirely unheard of.
Right.
Right?
I think a lot of leaders, to protect themselves, have a lot of lookalikes. In
Sure.
fact, I think I've heard like a theory that oftentimes when presidents go golfing, they're actually doing something else, and they just have like a lookalike golfing for them to kind of just throw off. But I'm not sure if I believe that, but I know for sure a lot of presidents have had lookalikes, as well as like dictators. Like I think Saddam Hussein had like 8 lookalikes or something. So yeah, it's not completely unbelievable, but I don't know if you just want to pick some guy off the street that you met at a hospital to be your lookalike now.
Right. But it could work, especially if Tanya's never actually met Rock Slag.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. Well, yeah. The chief did say that she's been dying to meet him.
Right. So that's why I'm not going to give it plus spy points, but I'm going to refrain from dinging it.
I do want to give some really good plus spy points to this, though. When the chief recruits Fred, we love talking about the recruitment process when we do our spy films, just here at Spies Like Us, and the leverage that chief uses. He first starts with duty to country. You're going to save the world. It's your duty to your country, and buttering him up like you're going to be very important. This is really important, and we need you. Plus, you're going to get an all expenses paid trip to France. It'll make your wife happy. You just can't tell her anything. Even though, by the way, I'm making this my number 3 best tradecraft is the recruitment. But I'm also pointing this out as my number 3 worst tradecraft because he makes a big deal to Fred. Like, you can't talk to anybody about anything that you're doing, not even your wife. Then he just screams like he was just talking to Rock Slag like loud as shit. So Ali and Bobo knew, oh, Rock Slag is here. And now he's like talking super loud to Fred and stuff. And then like later I told you when he gets the message, he's just announcing like very, very critical intelligence like to the world. So I've marked this kind of recruitment process as my best tradecraft number 3, but just the fact that he's like talking to the doctor loud as shit. Yeah, this is Rock Slag, world famous spy, doctor. I don't know who you are, doctor, but let me give you all this information about our top agent. He's a really good spy. In fact, the world is trying to catch him. In fact, you could probably make a lot of money if you find him for the bad guys. You might as well wrap him up in a bow. Yeah, so that kind of bugged me.
Okay. But the movie's driven by this sort of mistaken identity kind of thing. It's a little like Men Who Knew Too Little.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, this kind of mistaken identity thing, I feel like was used a lot in cartoons and maybe especially the Flintstones.
Mhm.
This is definitely not the first time they've done it.
No,
And
I've seen that gag 100 times.
right.
Yeah,
And cartoons is such a great place to use it because you're
yeah,
just kind of reusing animation that you've already got.
right.
Which is probably, clever, but just a little reading on the trope, mistaken identity actually has like a huge long tradition in literature. One thing I was reminded of on doing a little wikiing was that Shakespeare used it a shit ton.
Yeah,
In like almost half of his plays have some kind of person posing as or being and that being
right.
a major plot driver
Oh,
of one
wow.
person being thought of as another.
Mhm.
And I think I saw too, and I'm not aware of any, but that people reference that like you can even find Greek dramas from way back in the day.
Oh, I could believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, that used it. In this film, at least for the Paris sequence, it's really just an excuse to watch Allie and Bobo fail to kill Fred in a lot of comedic ways.
Yeah.
The comedy coming from the fact that Fred's completely unaware that he's a target, but
Mhm.
the man who knew too little, which I was not a big fan of,
Mhm.
definitely did this a lot better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now you did mention that, and I think I could quibble with you that on the initial recruitment of Fred, actually I don't think Boulder said any. I mean, he did say it's a government thing, but I don't think he laid it on thick of like what's at stake.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, like at the beginning, like he just told him he lets Fred believe that he's just going to pick up a bird.
Oh, that's right.
That the
Yeah.
green goose is just a bird. So
Yeah.
Fred's like, yeah, you're going to send my family to Paris, all expenses paid to pick up a bird? I'd be an idiot to turn this down.
Yeah, only an idiot would turn the. Yeah. No, that was a bad idea to let him believe that. I mean, I guess it helped him in the recruitment process, but it probably would have been a better idea to tell him the green goose was a person. You know?
Possibly, but later in the film, when Fred finds that out
Hmm.
and finds out like that, what he's doing involves actual danger, like he completely wants out.
Hmm.
And hero rejection of the call. Oh,
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But that's where the film gets my best number one tradecraft is because at this point the chief does say this is like you're Fred's like, hey, I gotta think, I can't be doing this, I gotta think about my family. And the chief is like, this is about your family, this is about
Mhm.
all of our families. Pebbles won't have a future if you don't do this.
Yeah. No, that was really good. Because even after hearing that, Fred still denies it. But at the playground when he's looking at Pebbles and Bam Bam playing, it kind of he's like, oh wow, that's right, my children's future is at stake.
I thought that was the best song in the movie.
Oh yeah,
And when I say best, we're talking about a very low ceiling here.
yeah.
I didn't expect songs in this movie. I definitely didn't want songs in this movie. I
Right.
definitely didn't like most of the songs in the movie. This one actually kind of sort of worked for me, and the animation in it, it just reminds me, like even today, like, and I don't know if Disney had really. I guess Disney had done this stuff. I wonder who really pioneered it to like not only put songs into movies, but to make that part of the animated movie like far more abstract type of animation instead of trying
Hmm.
to represent reality, but to represent mood
Hmm.
and feeling.
Hmm.
And at the very least, but I mean especially in this song, I feel like when you're looking at the animation on the screen, I get the feeling that like if I was an animator working on this movie, this is what I signed up for. This is what I wanted. This is the animation I want to do. This is my craft. This is my artwork. This is my expression to the world of the beauty of animation. And if to get an opportunity to do that, I got to do a shit ton of keyframing of just stupid Fred Flintstone, Barney Rubble talking to each other, driving around in cars and goofy dinosaurs. Like I'll do that. But when I get to this part, like this is the part I really want to do.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
You know the story with What's Opera, Doc?
No?
You know the cart. Yeah. Okay. What's Opera, Doc? That's the kill the wabbit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. And then that's when Bugs is dressed as the Viking woman from that famous opera. Okay, yeah.
Right. Do you know the story behind that?
That episode or that opera?
That episode. That episode
No.
of that. Oh, really?
Yeah.
They snuck it through. The animators, they never ever would have gotten permission.
Approval?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That was a completely unapproved project, and all the animators conspired with each other to, like, I don't know, you have like I don't know numbers, but let's say like you're given a budget of like 200 hours to work on this episode, and then 200 hours to work on this episode. Like all the animators at Warner like conspired together to like finish their other episodes like at, you know, just 190, and then secretly like just bill the other 10 of work that they had on working on What's Opera, Doc.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. Yeah, but that's what I think about when I see like this kind of you know, animators off the leash. You know,
Yeah,
it's
fun.
and the way what you get now in Disney movies is just so fan-fucking-tastic.
Right.
You know, during the musical numbers. Yeah. So yeah, that's another animated stuff kind of thing. I did like Bed Bugs.
That was so funny.
I'll give that plus comedy points.
Yeah. The bug in the room was actually a bug recorded. Like if you've ever watched Simpsons and you see like a recorder or like the camera in or not the Simpsons, the Flintstones, those old cameras, there was like a old prehistoric woodpecker like chiseling the picture, or if it was a recording, there'd be like a vinyl record and it's just like a bird. Well, instead of a bird doing it, they had an actual bug listening in on the conversation, and it was in the bedpost. And Chief goes, "They've bed bugged me," and I thought that was clever. I think we both got a chuckle out of that one.
Yeah, I've never been really a fan of like the dinosaur tech that they use in the Flintstones. And there's always like the kind of like oppressed working man, like side eye to the audience, like, I hope the union never finds out about this or whatever. That kind of joke.
Yeah.
Really just don't land for me. But Bedbug was cool, and I actually really kind of liked the plane.
Yeah, with the pterodactyls. Yeah.
They have a passenger plane that basically it's like instead of propellers, there's just pterodactyls lined up on the wings, which is funny. I gotta mention, okay, so you know, they in the comics, sorry, I gotta come back to the comics. They want to launch a chimpanzee into space, and you know how they do it? They put like it's one of those things like a seesaw kind of setup.
Oh.
and then they haul a brontosaurus up like 18 stories and just drop it onto the one end to launch the little wooden rocket with the chimp.
That's pretty funny.
It's fucking hilarious is what it is.
That's pretty funny.
All right. So we're all set. we know what the Green Goose is trying to do, and this little wrinkle is what lets us make it a Flintstones movie. That Fred's gotta do the job. And what's the job again?
He has to pretend to be Slag to meet with Tanya. They find out Slag is actually going to get better, so all he has to do is stall Tanya so he can switch out with Slag. Slag then gets hurt, so now Fred has to go through the whole job, and the idea is the chief is going to follow Fred as Tanya takes him to the Green Goose, and they're going to capture the Green Goose. So all Fred's job is to pretend to be Rock Slag.
Right.
Cartoon antics ensue, and the chief isn't able to follow him, and so Fred is left.
Well, I want to make sure I throw in my minus spy points on the way that Fred is initially supposed to make contact with Tanya.
Oh yeah. There's some pretty bad stuff.
I think at first in Paris he's just like supposed to wander around this restaurant just saying this code phrase to random women and see if they come back with the right phrase. We like a code phrase, and I especially like movies where they don't like make a big point of it, like it just looks like a natural reaction. Someone says like, "Oh, I love the winter in Berlin." Oh yes, but it is so cold there, and then like, and then after this seemingly very innocuous natural reaction, all of a sudden they start talking about spy stuff. They're like, okay, you said the right thing. Etc. But just wandering around saying the code phrase to random women is not the way you do it.
What was the code phrase? It was like fiery firefighters,
something like that. Yeah,
it was like an alliteration.
Twister.
Yeah, that is not easy to remember, and it's obviously a code word.
Right. Yeah, definite minus spy points for that. I will say there's a faint possible. No, I'm really reaching here. If I try to give him plus, because at first the meeting's supposed to be in Paris, and then all of a sudden it's supposed to be in Rome. Mm-hmm. In a better film, I could have called that faint plus spy points. If like a sudden change of venue is going to throw off the watchers, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But instead, it just seemed to be an excuse to show the Flintstones version of Paris and of Rome. And, just like some kind of studio note of like, he needs to be a globetrotter. There need to be multiple exotic locations or something. That's what James Bond does. So that's what Flintstones got to do. Mm-hmm. But when they do get the meeting set up finally, the chief puts a microphone. Of course, it's a Stone Age cartoon microphone that's like a little bird in a clamshell kind of situation. And he puts the microphone on Fred before he meets with Tanya. And he says, because they want to hear everything he says. And this is why I'm going to give it plus spy points in this movie and make it my number 2 best. Fred is not trained to get information out of Tanya. So if you can accept this idea that you've sent an untrained double into a situation where you're trying to gather information, wire him up so that you can just hear everything that she says. Even if he fucks up, maybe she'll slip up, you just want to have that direct information. And from their perspective, it seems that all Fred needs to do is ask her to reveal the goose's identity. Which she does not. Right. Instead, she, I don't know, tells Fred, when he brings up the goose, she says, "Oh yeah, he's a very bad man. Do you know he has a secret super weapon?" Yeah. Which, okay, so in this kind of case, like you do, if you're being the double agent kind of person, you do want to give some information that does seem authentic, but this is not the right piece of information to give. Mm-hmm. I'll call it my number 3 worst tradecraft. Yeah, there's a lot. Like, why did the chief even tell Fred
information when he got the. Oh, I guess we're not there yet. But when he gets the message, it has nothing to do with Fred and was bad idea. And now we have Tanya telling Fred all this information she doesn't need to tell him. There's quite a bit of loose lips situations in this story that I don't think were addressed at all.
Right.
But once I guess this piece of information gets out, the chief gets a secret message about the super weapon, and apparently the organization has been working on an anti-missile tech, but the message that he gets is that the anti-missile doesn't work yet, which he announces to the world. And I already said earlier, this is my number 2 worst tradecraft. But it seems to me like this is something that Triple X should have been following the chief about, or at least hanging out with him for this. It just seems to me this whole story was unnecessary, and this is part of the reasons why. Yeah.
The goons, like shortly after sending Fred off to say it's okay, go with Tanya, we'll back you up, and we'll grab the goose. Right. And it's right after that the goons, Ollie and Bobo, managed to score their real only substantial unadulterated success. They knock the chief out and they get the message off of him, which is what the green goose needed all along, is that the anti-missile missile is not ready. Mm-hmm. So Tanya is faking a plan to help Fred capture the goose, but it's actually just a ruse. And when that gets revealed, she does some very typical over-explaining for the morons in the back row, in case you couldn't keep up with this incredibly simple story of why this setup was there. And then the goons show up. They tell the goose about the secret message, and now we got this classic situation where it seems like all the cards are in the villain's hand, which is important for this kind of version of a spy story.
Right.
And we also have that kind of cool thing, which has been done better, for sure, where our hero thinks he's got backup, but he doesn't. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't know that his boss has been killed or something.
Yeah, he's watching Barney get tortured, and he's like pretending not to care because he's like, "Don't worry, Barney, the chief's gonna come any minute." And like, so, yeah, it's set up like that.
Right. But once the goose has got the information, he says, "Okay, we don't need these guys anymore." Shoves them into a prison cell. Has Ollie and Bobo try to feed them some poisoned food. I mean, it being a family cartoon, obviously you can't just shoot them in the head, but that's what you should do.
Yeah.
In this kind of situation, I suppose. Fred and Barney managed to escape, and in my struggle to find good tradecraft, I'll give my best number 3 to the little bird. Mm-hmm. This is Fred and Barney in a cell. It's a classic situation. We're in the cell. The guards are outside. They're sleeping. We can see the key. God damn, if there was only some way we could get this key. Well, out pops little bird. Fred talks the little bird into going for the key. Bird, of course, the keys are too heavy for him, drops them on the horn of the little sleeping Triceratops. What's he going to do now? Well, he goes in and he pretends to be a wounded little bird. And that's it. I mean, it's, pretty simple. Lure the baby Triceratops with the key around his horn over to where Fred can grab it. There's not much tradecraft in this movie. I'm calling this my best number 3.
Yeah, there really isn't a whole lot.
No. We're gonna wreck this thing on ratings.
Yeah.
And there's not much else. I mean, Fred and Barney, there's some cartoony shenanigans that happen, but that don't really have to do anything with spycraft. Triple X, during their escape, appears to Fred. The Green Goose, remember, Green Goose is Triple X, in case you haven't been paying attention, shows up as Triple X, and they run into each other. The mask falls out, and Fred says, "Oh, is this yours?" And he's like, "Ah, yes, I am the Green Goose." This is just a reminder. We got to go back to why this is the worst number one, like the absolute failure of him to use his Triple X identity in any meaningful fashion. At this point, it kind of could have been cool. And kind of at this point in the story arc, this is where like Triple X should show up and have some clever way of fooling Fred into getting some kind of information that the villains need for their plan, and then to find out it's the Green Goose. That's good story writing. This is crap. The Green Goose already knows the information he needs. He has no reason to interact with Fred in any capacity. Like just launching the missile should be his only priority. It's safe to do so. So do it. And then pursuant to that, he's got a stupid, dumb timing mechanism on the rocket. Like it's set up with I don't know, there's some kind of blade and some kind of rotating thing that'll cut a rope. I guess I understand sort of the need to not be in the rocket when it launches, but I don't even know why there is an interior to the rocket.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of ways you could set up this kind of like timing mechanism so you could get to safety. But this is super like unnecessary James Bond villain stuff, like that there's a timer now, which is like a totally false way of creating tension. Yeah, just ludicrous. Just launch the fucking rocket already.
Right.
And then take me home with unless throw in anything else you want to say before debriefing, but take us home with the stupidest thing that I think I've ever seen in any movie.
So this is what really, I think, bothered me about the movie, because it was already kind of cheesebally and not really getting anywhere. But you're hoping for the end where like Fred, the hapless everyman that gets swallowed into the spy world, is gonna like be the hero at the end of the story, right? So what do you think? He's gonna disarm the rocket. He's gonna knock out the Green Goose. He's the typical story like this where the hero. But what does he do? He bought like this fake necklace on the streets of Italy and pretends it's really valuable to Barney. And the Green Goose overhears this conversation that this necklace is worth $1 million. And he says to the Green Goose, the Green Goose offers, "I will spare your lives if you give me that necklace." So the Green Goose has this giant plan of world domination and, doomsday situation where he's launching this rocket. And somehow at the very last minute, he's tempted by, greed, where he's going to take this necklace that's worth $1 million. So they open the door and he runs in like an idiot, and they just beat him up and then shove him in and shove so Ali and Bobo and Tanya into the rocket, and the rocket goes off because they can't stop the rocket apparently, which that didn't make sense either. You would think he would be able to pull the lever and stop the rocket, that's what that would have even been better. Even with this silly trick that Fred plays, if the Green Goose turns off the rocket and they let him out and arrest him when the chief comes to, it's no. But what happens is the rocket goes off and they all fly into space. That's pretty much how the movie ends, and Fred gets a big award and Wilma's happy.
I've been scratching my head a little about this. I didn't hate this movie in its entirety. I definitely didn't like it. I think this ending with the diamond necklace, the fake diamond necklace, I really struggle to think of anything stupider I've ever seen in a movie or television show just really ever.
Mm-hmm.
This is bad. Can you
Yeah.
think of anything?
Well, it's definitely not as bad as the last joke of The Man Who Knew Too Much, 56. That was horrible.
Oh, touche, sir.
Yeah. But no, I can't think of anything that had this bad of an ending. Like, like what I really wanted the message that Chief read out to be disinformation. And then it
Mm-hmm.
just turns out that, like, even if Fred wasn't the hero that saved the day, it turned out that the Chief was spreading disinformation and it got to the ears of the Green Goose and he fires the rocket. And then, oh, it turns out our anti missile was ready. Yay, and we won. Good job, Flintstone. You were able to play your part, and we got the job done and saved the world. Like that would have been a much better ending. Um, but no, it was just like, here's this silly trick we're gonna play on the Green Goose, and they're just gonna go fly off into space. And I was like, oh,
Right. Yeah. Some other really simple stuff that could have just elevated this piece of trash out of the mud a little bit is, we've gone all over the fact Triple X could have been like a way more interestingly leveraged, even in just one scene. Just give us one little twist with that. There could have been a scene where, like, I don't know, where we find out Tanya has a daughter, right? And then maybe Fred could like have to, kind of explain to her or point out to her that her daughter's safety is threatened as well by the Green Goose's plan, and get some kind of leverage out of that, which also would have been a really nice like way to make it a, if the Russians have love their children too, kind of thing,
right?
and slap a message on this shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just little things, but no, they're just going along. They're just doing gags and just kind of faking the funk.
Agents, please report for debriefing on this operation. The director will see you now.
David, I'm looking at previous ratings here, and I think we can agree we're in like worst movie ever that we've covered so far.
Yeah, I'm looking at Spies Like Us, and I'm probably gonna go with a 1.
Yeah, so we flipped on these. Spies Like Us and Spy Kids, we both agree are terrible movies.
Right.
And also it looks like we also didn't have any great love for the conversation.
No.
Again, this is just our personal feelings. This is how much we like the movie. But we're going to leave the conversation out of this one, because I think Spies Like Us and Spy Kids are much better analogs for what we're looking at here. We flipped on those. You liked Spy Kids a teensy bit better than I did.
Yeah.
And I liked Spies Like Us a teensy bit better than you did. It's so for me, my lowest rating ever has been given to Spy Kids at a 1. I've been really thinking, like, did I hate this movie more than I hated Spy Kids? Like, dude, it's hard. Like, okay, because I had to watch it 3 times, and I watched it the one time, and then I always watch a movie a second time and take my notes, and then just last night we watched it again. I watched it with you. That was your first time.
Yeah.
I envy you for the fact that you've only had to sit through this once. But do I hate it more than Spike? Definitely watching it 3 times was torture. No, it's a 1. It's matching Spy Kids. If you, I can't tell you whichever. If you said, Todd, you need to watch Spy Kids or you need to watch The Man Called Flintstone, I would just pick whichever one I hadn't seen most recently, and that would be my only avenue away from the torture. This is a 1.
Yeah. I'm definitely going with the 1 as well. One of the reasons why I did not like Spies Like Us is it didn't really go anywhere. and it just seemed like nonstop gags. And I think because I remember when we did Spies Like Us, you had said John Belushi was supposed to be in that,
That's
and
right.
yeah, and it feels like they rushed the script because they lost John Belushi. So I feel like this is kind of a similar, what's it called, diagnosis for me. Like they probably had to rush to get a spy film out, considering you said it was 62 and this was 60. Doctor No was 62 and this was 66, right? So it seemed like they're like, oh, they're making parody films of spies already. Holy shit, let's get a movie out. And then they were just like, just get on it. I don't care what you got, just throw something out there. And this is the result. So I'm going with a 1 on this. Yeah.
Quick note: I think Chevy Chase was probably a positive addition to Spies Like Us,
Oh yeah.
because I think it was Aykroyd that really flagged in that one, and I'm not sure Belushi could have saved it. I think Chevy Chase actually is what got my little bump on a 0.5 on that one. But yeah, we're going with double ones here, which will officially make it our least favorite spy movie of all time so far. And before we go to park bench rating, let's just run
Recap
quickly.
our best and worst.
What do we got here? Todd's best tradecraft number 3, the bird using a ruse to get the keys. My number 2 best is wiring an untrained Fred. If you're going to accept the fact that you're going to throw in an untrained person in there for the situation, you definitely want to wire him instead of trusting him to handle the situation. My number 1 best is when Fred gets cold feet. It's a generally accepted use of pressure, recruitment pressure, appeal to your family's safety.
Absolutely. My number 3 best tradecraft was recruiting Fred using duty and an all expense paid trip to even start the mission. My number 2 best tradecraft was the Green Goose using Tanya to lure Fred. And my number 1 best tradecraft was the Green Goose's infiltration as Triple X with we don't even know what government they're in, but whatever. Our team Good Guy.
The government.
The government. Yeah, we'll just say the government. And what about your worst tradecraft?
Well, Tanya had no reason to tell Fred about the super secret weapon. There are reasons to give, if you're a double agent, there's reasons to give some information that make you seem trustable. This is just like handing over the whole bag.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Number 2 worst is, the goons are working for the Green Goose and Tanya's working for the Green Goose, but the goons and Tanya are not trying to achieve the same goal.
Right.
So, you need to plan that shit out better. And the number 1 worst for me is just the absolute failure to use. You got this idea. There is a mole. You were actually smart enough to think of the idea of putting a mole in the Allied organization, which in and of itself, like, kind of surprised me that it was actually even got to that level of cleverness. And then it goes nowhere and doesn't get used in any way whatsoever. Number 1 worst.
My number 3 worst tradecraft was talking loud to the chief, just talking loud to the doctor about rock slag and how important he was in public. My number 2 worst tradecraft was the chief reading anti-missile message out loud. And why did he even tell Fred to begin with? And definitely by far my number 1 worst tradecraft matching yours is the Green Goose. Though he infiltrated the government, did nothing with it. It was a perfect opportunity to get information and did absolutely zero with it. So that's my number 1 worst tradecraft. Park benches. What do we think?
Well, we had to really struggle to find any positive spy points.
Yeah.
in this film. I think this is a slam dunk. It's another 0.5.
I completely agree. Zero argument on that. So yeah,
The
0.5
only
park
reason
benches.
we would ever, I think we've established this, the only reason we could ever go down to a 0, which I'm tempted in this case,
Yeah.
is if we accidentally watched a movie that wasn't a spy movie at all, or it didn't even pretend to be a spy movie.
Yeah.
Like driving Miss Daisy would get a 0 park bench rating.
That's pretty good.
Fucking Jurassic Park would even rate a 0.5 because at least there's a traitor in that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Newman.
Hey, you remember? All right, cool.
I do. Yeah. All right. Well, what's up next? Do we have?
Well, first is our promise that we won't inflict something this bad on you for at least another year, but also our promise that if we ever find something worse than this, we might have to cover it.
Yeah.
just to be true to our brand.
Yeah.
But it'll be a while. We're gonna get serious again. We're definitely gonna move back. We're gonna try to move back onto our regular schedule of TV movie. TV movie. What's up for TV is Le Bureau.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Le Bureau.
So I think you're listening to this, if you're still listening, the day before Christmas Eve in the U.S. And Dave and I are gonna work to see if we can just immediately start pumping out some Le Bureau episodes immediately after that. So you would get, I guess, maybe a rebroadcast of our brush past of episode 1 of season 1 of Le Bureau on New Year's Eve, or not New Year's Eve, but the day before New Year's Eve, and then we'll continue from there. I don't think we've picked our next movie yet. I think I've picked the last couple, so I'm gonna give it to you. Is there anything you've got a burning desire for right now?
Not really. I'd have to go through the list. But since we're doing Le Bureau, we might want to do something French. Are there any French spy films that we haven't done yet?
Hey, I think that's a great idea. We'll look at the list. We'll check it out. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I guess next week. Or we're not sure yet. That's right. Join us next time for Le Bureau. And that's the end of our show. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at spies_like us. Visit us on our website at www.spieslikeus.net. You can find out about upcoming episodes. Also, what will really help us out is if you give us a review on wherever you found our podcast, either on iTunes or your Android app or YouTube or wherever you listen to us. Even if you didn't like the show, just give us a review. It'll help us, give us feedback so we can make the show better. And it can also help other people who haven't found the show yet find out about us. Hey, Moira, initiate Protocol 9.
Protocol 9 initiated. This podcast will self-destruct in 20 seconds. The preceding transmission sampled the songs Ice Cold by Audionautix, Enter the Party by Kevin MacLeod, and sound effects from freesound.org. Attributions and links are found at spieslikeus.net. Editing by Todd Hostetler.